Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Capital One Bank, Sterling National Bank, Marks Paneth LLP, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from Amarant Bank, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, B6 Real Estate Advisors, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Citizens Bank, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handro Properties Handler Real Estate Organization, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Catsimatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, RPW Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merringore Family Foundation, and these friends. So it's called Long Island. People hear about it. People don't know what's going on. People say it's a schlep to get out there. But it's a great opportunity. And today I've assembled, with the help of Mitchell Reckler, my guest today, to talk about what's happening in Long Island. The man who's celebrating a special birthday this week, who's been in Long Island for probably close to 60 years?
Or since the flood.
Since the flood. The legendary Alan V. Rose, who's the chairman, founder, and CEO of AVR Realty. The man who's well known in the investment sales community, Jeff Dunn, CBRE vice chairman. And last but not least, the person who I will consider my executive producer for bringing Mr. Dunn, Mitchell Reckler, who is the co-managing partner at Reckler Equities. So Alan, one of the biggest problems that you've said to me about Long Island was it takes a long time to get things approved. Has it changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I would say it's gotten worse. You have politicians who really are not too capable of understanding the project you're trying to build. There's still elements of people who don't want anything built, no matter what it is. And they can't get out of their own way. It's not that they're doing anything bad or crooked or anything like that. Everybody's trying to help, but it still takes years to get a major subdivision approved. We have like a 2 million square foot subdivision out there. I've been working on it for 27 years. But 2 years ago, we finally got the approvals.
Now, in that manner, Mitchell was talking about, he has a couple of developments out there, different types of developments, okay, with residential, with hospitality, and so on. That one of them took you close to 13 years.
Yeah, our project in Hampton Bays, which was the old Canoe Place Inn, took 13 years and a number of political administrations before we finally got that approved a couple of years ago. And now that's currently under construction.
So in a similar manner, when you're selling land or properties, Jeff, in Long Island, do the buyers who are aware or astute of how long it takes to get the developments and approvals, how do they perceive this?
Painfully. I think that's why a lot of the development on Long Island is done by people that either live there or have operated there. There's very little new capital from outside that comes in unless it's with someone who's there. So recognizing that long time frame that you have, I think people want local representation as well as local partners like a Mitchell. Not that they partner per se, but that's what they would want. I mean, having said that, there are people who are looking to put money in different places, new places, and I would say Long Island has some appeal if you can get an approval.
I mean, one of the biggest problems that people always said about Long Island is the change of Nassau and Suffolk. The taxes are totally different over there. And in many cases, you know, in Allen, you've owned a number of office buildings, so have you owned a number of office buildings in Nassau. At one time when somebody would be paying rent, the real estate taxes could be as high as the rent in certain circumstances.
Jeff and I had this conversation a few weeks ago. Nassau County's real estate taxes are roughly 3 times more expensive than that of Suffolk County. It's hard to wrap your head around a long-term viability for Nassau County real estate investment.
Have we seen any new office buildings taking place in Nassau or Suffolk County?
Office buildings, not that I am aware of.
The only office buildings that are going up are where the tenant owns the building. Nobody is putting speculation money into office buildings. It just doesn't work. And apropos what you guys were saying, Mike Dubb, who's you know Mike, he's been on your program too, he's one of the best residential builders in Long Island, has the same house for sale in Garden City for $1.2 million that he sells on my project where he's building for $600,000. It's half. And we're getting a tremendous amount of people who are moving out of Garden City. They're retirees, so it really doesn't matter to them, into the project in Yaphank.
The other thing is replacement cost. When you compare it to what office buildings are selling for now on Long Island, you know, office buildings are selling for $100, $120 a foot compared to what it would cost to build. It makes absolutely no sense to develop.
Let's talk about the recent sale that you took place in Long Island, the Newsday building.
Perfect example. People looked at this, a lot of people looked at it. We probably had 15 bidders, but they looked at it either to renovate or to remove it all and start from scratch. Now, first of all, it's in Melville, so it's in Suffolk. So it had lower taxes than certainly Nassau by maybe a third. But most people concluded it was better and less expensive and to build the project they wanted to scrape the site. So they bought 500,000 square feet on 48 acres, recognizing they were going to take it down, paid $54 million or so. So you can do the costs in terms of it's that plus the cost to take it down. And they're going to build modern day 36 clear industrial. So that's not normally what you think of Long Island being, but if you went around Long Island and look at all the different types of industrial, you'd see there is demand, but it tends to be antiquated, older, less efficient industrial.
I mean, you talk about quality industrial, which is something that Regular Equities is known for, but what you've done in West Hampton right now, in an area that people wouldn't think that it's truly, you know, an industrial area. And I think what you said to me before about Restoration Hardware, Plates, and some others.
Yeah, there is definitely a flight to quality product when it comes to industrial. So even though our project in West Hampton, where we're going to be building 500,000 square feet, is in West Hampton, and you know, geographically speaking, not necessarily desirable.
Right, it's not like Melville that we're talking about.
Right, and there's not the same density. Because it's a limited market, and because it is the nicest industrial product that's in the area by far, we're getting, you know, high numbers. You made mention of Restoration Hardware. That's a last mile requirement where they're renting 15,000 square feet, and the purpose is warehousing to deliver to people who are buying online.
Alan, when you developed Yaphank, what was your original thoughts about Yaphank?
It original thoughts?
To do over there.
Well, it was 2,100 acres on the best intersection in Suffolk County, the best east-west road being the LIE, the best north-south road being the William Floyd Parkway. We thought, and this is the way I think aware, not what's there, but what's going to come there. And basically, it turned out to be a real break for me that they denied me the zoning for 25 years. In fact, the night of the hearing where we got approved, I got up and said, I want to thank everybody on the council here, all your predecessors. I said, if you would have approved this 25 years ago, I probably would have sold it for nothing. I said, you made me a lot of money by delaying us for 25 years. Well, they all look, you know,
See,
that wasn't their intent.
see, but what we're talking about, and I'm listening to with Mitchell on some of his properties, with Jeff, who mentioned to me before the show that he's involved with a large sale of residential. There is a need in Nassau, in Suffolk County specifically, you know, for housing. That's what's going into your property in Yaphank.
Well, there's all different kind of housing. I mean, you say
Right.
housing. Housing can be a
I'm talking rental.
townhouse
I'm
for
talking about
200,000.
rental. I'm talking about rental and for sale and different
Right.
types.
Well, we have both. And it's surprising. There were people that we never counted on this are moving out of Nassau County for the reasons you suggested, which is the high taxes. It's another 20, 25 minutes on the highway, and they're there. The problem is not really so much the costs. Problem is there's no sewers, relatively no sewers in the whole county. We had to spend $20 million on sewer plants to make our property usable. And there just isn't a lot of people around that are going to do it. Plus, the administrations of most of these towns are so difficult to work with that it's hard to put a real deal together. We're lucky we got the land from the price it was sold for 27 years ago, so we can do pretty much what we like. But it's very hard to make a housing deal, especially one-family housing deal, work on Long Island.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your housing deals that you're working on right now out in Suffolk County.
Okay, so we have a project which is a brand we've created called Gray Barn, and our kickoff development is in Amityville, which will be 500 units. There are 325 units as of now. The fourth phase is under construction. That'll bring us up to 400.
And what are the breakdowns, ones and twos?
It's evenly split between ones and twos, and there's a 20% workforce housing component.
Would you explain to my audience the workforce housing component and the affordability component required in Long Island today?
Sure. So I think it's pretty standard now, whatever municipality you work in out there, that there will be some component. And for us, it was 20%, where it is 80% of the median income in the area. So it's really a fair number, because anyone who makes a household that makes an individual who makes $63,000 a year would qualify. So it's allowing a lot of people access into a real Class
It's also a lottery?
There is a lottery, which is all administrated by the Long Island Housing Partnership.
Did you have that situation out in Yaphank?
Yeah, we only had 10% workforce or cheaper houses, and same thing, Long Island housing. It's the cost of doing business.
Right.
If you want to be a builder in Long Island, you got to be prepared to do
You have to be
benefits for
you
the
have to
town,
be flexible.
benefits for everybody within 25 miles, plus all kinds of fees for this and fees for that. Unless you bought the land for nothing, which I'm sure you guys did, being around a long time, it don't work.
So in addition to that, the other development, the townhouse development in Hampton Bays, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is different. That doesn't have a component, but there was, that had gone on for so long, and it was a different environment.
Do you expect the people in Hampton Bays to be more part-time summer residents or full-time?
We expect it to be second homes for the individuals. That's who we're marketing to.
Jeff, on what you're selling today, what type of properties are you selling in Nassau and Suffolk County today?
Retail, office, apartments. Clearly, you know, to Mitchell's point and to Alan's point, the penetration of new apartments, you know, per person in Long Island is so much lower than Westchester County, Fairfield County, Northern Jersey, Manhattan, all the boroughs. So it's the reason. So when you put up new apartments, they tend to lease very, very quickly because there's so little
New
attractive product. It even leases faster if it's affordable, okay, because there's a demand, there's a line for that. And as you said, there's a lottery. So demand for apartments on Long Island, enormous. If you're building in Nassau, you can't really make very much sense without a pilot. I will tell you that, because of what we talked about before, the taxes on an apartment just would be mind-boggling to you, what you pay in taxes. There's high demand for retail in most of Long Island. As you get way out, not so much because the density is not there, because the density on Long Island and the incomes on Long Island are very high. So people that own retail like to own good retail to the extent it comes available, which isn't that often. Office would clearly be the least demand, but we've been bringing new people like Hartz, like a company called Lionstone. We sold 3HQ out in Melville. New money is coming to Long Island, which has not been a trend that you've seen for many, many years.
Yes.
And so Mill Creek has been a big developer of new apartments. They've gotten good tax pilots. They brought J.P. Morgan. They brought others to the island, UBS. But it's patient money. These aren't going to happen fast. The real money doesn't come in until somebody has gotten an approval. They're not coming in speculatively.
You know, you're very involved in the Westchester community. One of the biggest topics in Westchester is transit-oriented developments. Now, Long Island, you have the roads and you have the Long Island Railroad. So today, you've seen more transit-oriented developments, but what other improvements can they do in Long Island to make more transit-oriented developments? And also, the other situation is to keep the younger people on Long Island.
The governor has put $26 million to planners who are now planning tremendous railroad improvements. They're going to bring an electrified double track from Lake Ronkonkoma, where it ends now, all the way out east to Yaphank, right on our property, literally, and maybe further as they see fit. It's finally going to happen. When I say it's going to happen, I don't know when it's going to happen because they don't go too fast, but they've firmly committed to having transit in Suffolk County.
Although it is very hard to get approvals, I do think that the politicians do understand that it's critical. I mean, we know that the Long Island workforce right now, 25% of it is baby boomers. So over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, companies are going to need to backfill those employees with younger employees, and there are so many that are leaving, and it is critically important to be able to provide quality housing for these people.
Now, you brought up, Jeff, you know, when you said to me that people are looking at retail, that word, for most of the time when I'm talking, is it's the curse, you know, the plague of retail. Do you feel, Alan, but I mean, all three of you, do you feel retail, grocery-anchored retail, continues to grow and has a need in Long Island? Or
I don't think right now there's a need for any retail. You got a couple of very, very big department stores and big supermarkets that are going to come to Long Island, but the rest of it, where we put junior anchors in, they want to pay like $15, and you should contribute $70, $80 a foot to the store. It just does not work at all. So we had a lot of shopping centers, as you know. We've been building them for 30 years, but none of them can command enough rent to warrant the investment. I see a very bleak future for shopping centers in Long Island.
Wegmans is opening up a large store in Westchester. Wegmans people like, they're opening up the Brooklyn store. You know, they don't have anything in Long Island. When Stu Leonard's opened up in Long Island, he did well and he expanded. You know, so there has been, you know, the proliferation of retailers. Now, the biggest change in Long Island retail for the supermarket business is that the Europeans are buying all the supermarket companies. King Cullen was recently acquired by Ahold. Best Market was acquired by Liddy. So, you know, it's a change of who's owning the properties.
Those are not new projects. They've
Right.
taken over.
They're taking
The
over
good
old
and the bad of
Walbaums.
all these older supermarkets,
Right.
and you just can't afford to build supermarkets for tenants that don't want to pay proper rents.
How do you see the subject of opportunity zones in Long Island?
There are a lot of funds being assembled, as you know, with opportunity investment as their basis, and land is going to be bid up where it fits into an opportunity zone because there is an economic advantage, and it's going to be land. It's not existing buildings really, because it's really on what you build new, and those assets will be held long term. So I believe opportunity zones have a great future, whether it be Long Island or anywhere. I think fundamentally the project still has to be a good one, so you can't take a horrible site necessarily, and just because it's in an opportunity zone, people will invest in it. So I'm a big fan of what I see happening and what we're selling.
My comment about the opportunity zone is that somebody has to realize that you must hold it
10 years.
for 10-year period. Now, the traditional real estate owner, investor, likes to have the capability, like Mr. Rose over the years, to sell when you want. When you go into an opportunity zone with a 10-year hold and the requirements of putting the money in within 30 months, it changes the perspective.
But a lot of the money going in can be tax gains from selling stock, tax gains from selling corporations and other things. So it's not just the real estate investor.
In my opinion, mostly non-real estate investors who are going to get involved with it.
Agreed.
The biggest question is, and Mr. Rose and I, and you may realize the experience, that in the 80s when there were tax shelters, there were certain bad people in the business who were accumulating money, and they were investing them in real estate tax shelters. They were illegal, they were allowed, but when the tax law changed in '87, many of these properties didn't hold water over there. My problem is that I believe that there are going to be those type of funds or creations of people who don't have the experience or expertise in the market. You remember those days?
I sure do. And I still think that you're going to find that right now, money is being raised by the trillions for real estate, of which there really isn't much real estate around to buy. I don't know if you've been looking, or
Yeah.
I know I've been looking. It's all garbage what's available for very, very big prices. And I say that these funds are going to get themselves into trouble, is what's going to happen.
Let's talk about industrial. I mean, that's been the roots of your family history. How do you see, I mean, is it hype, or is there a big need for industrial out in Long Island?
The demand has continued, and you know, we're very fortunate that over the course of the last 5-7 years, it has been, you know, so incredible. I mean, for us, as you recall, I mean, we still own buildings that my grandfather built in 1960. So we have what would be considered obsolete industrial product that is still, you know, very well leased. And then, you know, more contemporary, state-of-the-art type of industrial. The demand in all those product types has been extremely strong. And between the growth of pharma and medical out on Long Island, which has been huge, as well as many borough-based companies being pushed to Long Island because of the residential demand.
I see one of the great opportunities which has happened is the bioscience and healthcare companies moving out to Long Island, because you can get land at a different price, your costs are over there, and it's really a subject of transportation that changes the world. I mean, do you have much bioscience and healthcare in
We have a lot of pharma, a fair amount of bioscience, yeah, and it continues to grow.
Jeff, do you see any major healthcare companies looking for Long Island today?
I think they are drawn to New Jersey first, the pharma belt down there, because there are so many jobs there. And I think you have Regeneron in Westchester, who's been a big factor. I think in the scheme of things, they're getting some, but it's not anything like the kind of density of pharma in New Jersey.
So as I look at my crystal apple over there, which is pretty shiny, I look at 2019 as a shiny time for the Long Island market. I think there are different types of products that are going to do better than the others. I'd like to thank Alan. Happy birthday to my friend Alan.
Thank you.
Many, many more. Mr. Jeff Dunn and Mitchell Reckler, and I'll see you next week.